put another head gasket in it if you saw on the last episode of the Willys. Since then, this thing has actually developed a rod knock, unfortunately. You can hear that really bad rod knock this thing has. All right, the delivery truck just dropped off the Willys Wagon new engine, but this motor makes about double the power that that one will make. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Rustomod. Last year you saw us build this 1950 Willys Wagon, and we actually did a full chassis swap on it last year. We took a Jeep TJ chassis and we extended it, and then we put the whole body of the Willys on top of that Jeep TJ chassis, and then we powered it with a Volkswagen turbo diesel TDI motor. Now, we took this thing on Hot Rod Power Tour and it was doing good, but it ended up blowing a head gasket on our way to one of the stops at Power Tour. So we ended up limping it home. We got it home and we put another head gasket in it if you saw on the last episode of the Willys. Since then, this thing has actually developed a rod knock, unfortunately. So this motor is pretty much junk. So we kind of knew that going into this thing. This motor we literally got on Craigslist and put it in and really didn't really know much about it. So we actually have a new engine that we're putting in the Willys, and I'll show you guys that now. All right, the delivery truck just dropped off the Willys Wagon new engine. All right, well, this motor is a Volkswagen turbo diesel ALH, and it's just a little bit newer than a AHU that we had in there originally, but this motor makes about double the power that that one will make. This motor is actually bored out to a 2-liter. It has a electronic fuel pump that we're actually going to swap to a bigger mechanical injected fuel pump. It has bigger injectors, the bottom end's a lot bigger. All around it's just a much better engine. The head is much better. All right, so we actually got this thing quite a while ago, and the motor had come in and we just were trying to get the thing running at least enough to go to the patina party show. But in the meantime, this thing has, the old motor in the Willys has actually had a bad rod knock. So we got the thing up on the stand, and basically what this is an ALH TDI. The one that we had in there is a 1Z or a AHU. It's an older version of the TDI. This one's a much newer version. It's electronic controlled injection pump. This motor was originally a 1.9. Someone had actually increased the displacement of this thing to a 2-liter. It has a cam in it. It's completely rebuilt, all pretty much brand new. It's actually a really nice engine, but for it to work in our Jeep, we actually have to modify some stuff. So right off the bat, the engine has this vacuum pump and this coolant right off the back, and it's a lot longer than the head on the motor that's actually in the Willys. So this might be a problem. We might have to shift the transmission forward, figure that out, but that's one big hurdle that we're going to have to go with putting this motor in there. Another thing is the electronic injection pump. Now, we still want to run this thing fully mechanical. I know a lot of guys are just saying to just run the electronic pump, but to make this as easy as possible, just to swap in place of our other one, we're not going to run the electronic one. We're actually going to run this mechanical VE pump. Now basically what this is the same pump that we have on the Willys currently, but this one is a lot bigger. So since this motor is going to require a lot more fuel, this one is set up for that. This is actually a European pump, and we're going to put this pump on this motor. Now we also have some upgraded injectors and stuff like that, but overall this motor is a lot more modern, it's a lot newer, and it's a lot better to swap into our Willys. So the first thing that we're going to have to do is pull the electronic pump off and put the new mechanical pump on, time everything, make sure it's ready to go. Then we're going to have to pull the Willys in, do some measurements to see how this thing is going to fit versus the old motor, and get to swapping this thing. If you guys remember, we ran electronic air conditioning and electronic power steering. And the reason for that is just because that motor actually never even had power steering on it, and the electronic air conditioning we're running just because of fitment. So we're gonna try to run the mechanical stuff on this motor, and that'll make things a little bit easier. Now I know a lot of guys were interested in that electronic air conditioning kit that we had, and it worked pretty good, but the problem is it just drove the battery down a lot because we're running the electronic power steering and air conditioning at the same time, and it would just kill the battery. Now the layout of this is a little bit different than the one that we have in the Willys. So the injection pump is here, the power steering is here, and the air conditioning is way down here. Now the one thing that we did have a problem with was the differential coming up and hitting the air conditioning compressor. So we don't know if it's going to work, but if it doesn't work, we'll just keep the electronic AC. Same thing with the power steering. If the power steering becomes too tight or something, we still have the electronic, which actually electronic power steering always worked, and it worked really well. The AC was the one that we were having trouble with. So I think if we can alleviate one of them, then the battery will have enough voltage and both of them should work fine. But I think having both was just too much. So that's the plan for our Willys Wagon. So if you can see in here, you can kind of see the fitment of everything. The motor is pretty far back, but it's just because it's so small. But fitting everything on this side of the engine when we have steering and everything like that, you can see how close the steering is to our alternator already. It gets really tight in this spot, and it gets really tight in the back because leaning over this thing, you have to reach all the way to the back of the head to be able to get to any of your coolant stuff. So we're gonna try to clean this thing up, make it a little bit more serviceable, and that new motor is a lot more serviceable than this one is. So hopefully we can get this thing ready to go. All right, so we're gonna start by pulling off all the stuff that we're gonna yank off to get to the injection pump, and then we're going to try to time it and put the new injection pump on the motor. So let's dig in. We're going to start pulling all this stuff off and then timing this thing. All right, pull the valve cover off because we got to time the motor. So there's a pin that sits into here, and then that locks the injection pump, and then it locks where the timing is on the motor. But pulled the valve cover off. You can see just how clean it is in there. It doesn't look like this motor has ever been ran before. Still has assembly lube on everything. It's pretty cool. Head studs and everything like that. So now we got to time this, so that way we can remove the injection pump. There you go. All right, boom. Electric pump removed.
Yep.
It's brand new.
Going back to the horse and buggy days, baby.
Yeah. Then putting the new, older mechanical pump in.
Oh, that's actually, looks like a new mechanical pump.
Yeah. It's rebuilt. It's just an older style.
Across the pond on a different pond.
Yeah, the other pond.
Yeah.
No, so that's not gonna work with that.
All right, so kind of having a fitment issue with the mechanical pump. This pump has a plate right here, and here, put it back in. And it's hitting our bracket support for the injection pump. So the other one doesn't have anything there on the side. It's just, there's no plate here, so this sits flush with that bracket. So trying to figure out a way to get this to sit in there. If that wasn't there, it would go in perfectly. All right, so we got it marked kind of where we have to trim to get that to fit. Just gonna slice this bracket out and then try to fit it back in there. Does it fit? Oh, perfect. All right, so now you can see the clearance we have to clear that bracket. So we have plenty of room to get to everything. And it still utilizes the back bolt on the back of the pump off that bracket that was on there. So now we can bolt it down, time it, and that should be it, right?
Popping wheelies.
Yep.
Next.
Find injectors.
Yeah.
Yeah, go find the injector.
All right, the bolts were too short, so we're gonna have to remove these little plastic enclosed washers that were in there, so that way
Timing code.
the bolts can be long enough. All right, should be good.
Go ahead, try it.
All right.
Voila.
All right, now we can put the injection pump in. Yeah, so this pump has slots on it so we can rotate the physical pump. So we're using these carriage bolts on the back of it, so they go in like this, like that, and then we could still rotate it, but we don't have to get a wrench on the back of it, because that's what was hard on the last one. You had to get a wrench on all of them, and it was tight in there. So trying to alleviate that.
The
Yeah.
electric pump is tapped.
Yeah, that's the threaded holes. So, all right, so we're gonna put these in, put the pump on, and that should be it.
The metal from the racket.
All right, cool. Now it's bolted in. All right, we got our new injectors. So Pat's putting the new injectors in the motor. We got the injection pump completely done. We have all the coolant lines on, and it is timed, so should be pretty good. We're gonna have to kind of mess with all the coolant lines once we figure out how it's gonna lay in the Willys, but for now we at least know where everything is going to go. All right, well, the motor is done thanks to Master Tech Pat. The injection pump's on, it's timed. We have the new bigger injectors in there. All the coolant stuff is kind of routed where it is in the stock Volkswagen, so we can kind of see where it's going to go. So the only thing we have to put on here is the exhaust manifold, but we're going to have to pull the motor out of the Willys and then use that exhaust manifold on here. All right, well, we got the motor put together, so now we're just going to pull the Willys into the shop and pull out the old engine and see how that new one is going to fit in place of the old TDI. You can hear that really bad rod knock this thing has. All right, let's get it in the shop. All right, got it in the shop. You can hear how badly this thing is rod knocking. I think maybe some water from whenever the head gasket was blown has gotten to the oil and just destroyed this engine. So pulling it out and then putting the new modern TDI in there in place of it. This is a much better setup than the one that we had in there. So I'm gonna lift it up, do everything underneath that we have to do to take all the well housing bolts and the torque converter bolts and exhaust and everything out, pull this motor out, and then we can try to mock up the new engine. All right, so we got everything unhooked from the inside of the engine bay, but just to show kind of what the biggest problem is the space between the back of the head on this one. You can see there's nothing really behind it that's gonna hit the firewall. But then we go over to the new engine and we have all this a vacuum pump and then all these coolant lines and everything on the back of the head. So that's probably our biggest limitation with fitting this one in there. So we need to probably move the engine forward around 2 to 3 inches to be able to clear all this stuff. So that's going to be one of the things we have to try, because our motor mounts are slotted, so we can try to move the engine forward some, and then that should buy us. We do have a little bit of room back there, but not a whole lot. So we're gonna lift it up and see if we can scoot the engine forward to see if we can buy us some room behind the head. All right, so we got the Willys up in the air. So basically what we're talking about, here's our transmission mount right here, and we're trying to slide that forward, so these are slotted in here. So the motor mounts are here, and this hole actually is slotted also, so we can try to move that forward. It looks like it's slotted here, but it's just this washer. And then this side, the motor mount is slotted, and then the only other one we have is up front here. So we're gonna try to move this thing as forward as we can to be able to buy us some room up top.
There it goes.
Maybe just go as far as I can.
Yeah.
Okay, so we went ahead and moved the engine forward. You can see front motor mount was actually farther back, but we're limited by this little pin in the motor mount, so probably gonna have to cut that off and we can move it even farther forward. But right now we should have enough room to be able to fit it, so just to be safe we'll go ahead and cut those off. But that's the only limiting thing that we have on the motor and transmission to be able to slide forward. It looks like both of the drive shafts have a slip yoke in the middle of the front and the back, so we should have some play there to be able to move it. We got all the bell housing bolts, all the torque converter bolts, and basically everything ready for this thing to pull out. So we'll put a chain on it and yank it out. Right, well, we got the old TDI out of here, and we have plenty of room to try to figure out what we're gonna do with the new setup. There's so many lines and stuff that you have to get out of the way. It's pretty tricky to get this thing in and out of here. All right, now that we got the motor out of the Willys, we got to go ahead and take the flex plate and the adapter plate off of this motor and fit it to the new motor. So then we're going to try to put the new motor in the Willys. We have two motor mounts that basically grab the back on the adapter plate, so we can set the motor in without having the front motor mount on. Then we can figure out how we're going to do motor mounts on this, because this is a little bit different of a setup. You can actually do motor mounts on the sides, or you could do them on the front. So we're going to see what would work best. So now we're going to just pull that off, put it on here, and then put the motor back in the Willys. All right, so we got the new adapter plate back on from the old motor. Fits good. The only problem is this coolant stuff on the back won't fit with the adapter plate on it, so we're gonna have to figure something out with that, but we can probably make something work. So now we're just going to try to put it in the Willys as is. But one thing that we do have to do to be able to shrink the motor mount spacing is this little ear that was hitting whenever we were trying to shift the motor forward. We're just going to cut that off, so that way we can get full range and be able to move it as far forward as we can. kind of got twisted. All right, well, we put the motor back in. So this is the new ALH TDI, and it fits pretty good as it would because it's very similar to the other one. But a lot of things are different, so we're just test fitting it right now. So we have it on the back two motor mounts, but the front one we're gonna have to make something different. So you can kind of see this is the factory mount that was on it. So we're gonna have to make something to go to where we had the other motor mount there, but it looks like it'll sit pretty good. Also, our clearance with our steering looks like it'll work. Our power steering is basically where our alternator was. So this is a lot lower profile, so it fits a lot better. The only problem is the vacuum pump on the back is very tight to the firewall. So we're gonna have to make something for that, try to figure that out. But other than that, it looks like it'll clear. All right, we got the Willys up in the air. So we're trying to put the air conditioning compressor in here, and you can kind of see how tight it is right here. So I don't think we're gonna be able to run the mechanical air conditioning. Might just have to stick with our electric air conditioning, but we will be able to run our mechanical power steering. So we should be good with the issues that we were having with the electric AC. We'll have to see, because it was cutting off because it was low on voltage because we had electric power steering and AC. Hopefully with deleting the electric power steering, that will solve that problem. So we still should be okay, but our mechanical air conditioning is just very tight here, so we're not gonna be able to run that. But other than that, it looks like everything fits good. So we're finally making progress on the new motor. Now we're just going to have to figure out the front motor mount and reroute pretty much all the lines and everything else. Guys, we got the new motor in the Willys. We have a lot of work to do on this thing to get it done in time so that we can actually work on the Rambler. So we have a lot of stuff to finish up on this thing. So we'll get back at it on the next episode of Rustomod. So make sure you like, comment, subscribe so you can stay up to date on all the projects that we have here. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Thanks for watching.